All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Judicial Proceedings Committee. Today is Monday, March 9th, 2026. We are on voting list number 7, and the bill on the docket is Senate Bill 334. Jamie is counsel.
Senate Bill 334 prohibits a person from manufacturing, selling, offering for sale, purchasing, receiving, or transferring a machine gun convertible pistol beginning January 1st, 2027, and subject to specified exceptions. The bill also alters the definition of a rapid-fire activator to include a pistol converter. As a result of the expanded application of an existing penalty, a violator is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment for up to 3 years and/or a $5,000 maximum fine. Under the bill, as drafted, the Department of State Police may adopt regulations to implement the bill's provisions, including publishing a list of prohibited machine gun convertible pistols. There's one amendment in your voting packet. This is essentially the same amendment from last Friday. Sure. The amendment number is SB 334-653-124. Cool. So just want to point out a couple of differences from last week's, and I'll direct you to each of those changes. So on bill page 2, noticed a technical, just stylistic issue, which was the definition with common household tool. In the amendment from last week, it read common household tool includes screwdrivers, pipe wrenches, pliers, hacksaws. So those were plural for what's otherwise a singular. So in this amendment, it does correct that so the tool is singular. On the next page, or excuse me, if you flip over to in the reprint, it's still on bill page 2 of 6. In lines 13 through 16, machine gun convertible pistol does not include a hammer-fired semi-automatic pistol or a striker-fired semi-automatic pistol without a cruciform trigger bar. The difference between this week's version of it and last week's is that this week's also includes an exclusion for striker-fired semi-automatic pistols without a cruciform trigger bar. So that is spelled out in the amendment. And then finally, the only other difference is that on bill page 5 of 6, in lines 9 through 11, instead of Department of State Police may adopt regulations to implement this section, including publishing a list of prohibited machine gun convertible pistols, provides that the Department of State Police shall adopt regulations to implement this section, including publishing a list of prohibited machine gun convertible pistols.
Could I just move the amendment first so that it's the...
Second.
Before we move it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's been motion seconded, but open for a question. Go ahead.
Can you give a more laid description or definition of what is a striker-fired semi-automatic pistol without a cruciform trigger? You're talking to a guy who has never owned a gun and doesn't know how to fire a gun, so.
And so are you looking at page? This isn't well numbered, but like I'd say it's the 3rd page, and that is that
Yes.
machine gun convertible pistol means,
Yes.
and it doesn't mean, okay, yeah, I need some clarification.
Yeah, subpart 3, it does not include a striker-fired semi-automatic pistol without a cruciform trigger.
Right. So it, the distinction being made there is between something that's hammer-fired and striker-fired. The hammer-fired is there's a hammer that kind of think of it as the thing that you would cock back.
You
and
cock
then,
it.
Right. So striker-fired, my understanding is it's probably always an internal component that fires forward. It's released when the trigger is pulled. and then that hits the primer of the ammunition, causing the ammunition to go off.
And what is a cruciform trigger?
Cruciform trigger bar is a cross-shaped trigger bar. It's actually defined in the bill. I'll direct
Well, what
you
does
to
it do? Well, what does,
So what's unique, evidently from,
The patent expired in 2015, so there's some,
But they're the ones that, this is
but that's their,
what they're known for.
yeah, but go ahead, now describe it, sorry.
sure. So let me just pull up the definition, so I'm accurate here. So in the reprint in the new subsection J, a cruciform trigger bar is described as a component in a semi-automatic pistol that, one, serves as a link between the trigger and the firing pin and has its sear incorporated into a cross-shaped surface. So my understanding of this is that in certain pistols where there's a cruciform trigger, well, where there is a cruciform trigger bar, these Glock switches have a pin that goes in through the back of the slide, and that interacts or interfaces with the cruciform trigger bar because of its shape, and enables the gun to to enter fully automatic fire with one trigger pull. So the gun will continue expelling a cartridge, pulling a new cartridge forward, firing that cartridge, and then repeating that cycle.
just hold the trigger?
Right, correct.
Okay. And you're a little over my head, so we're talking about Glocks, correct? And nothing else? That's
So
what this one.
my understanding is that it's Glocks and Glock clones. I suppose, you know, I don't know that there's another manufacturer out there, another type of, I mean, there are other manufacturers besides Glocks that make Glock-style weapons or firearms. As far as I know, it's only that style of firearm that uses the cruciform trigger bar.
Okay. Thanks, that helps. Appreciate it.
Senator Love, do you see?
I'm sure I'll have other questions, but just what's a sear? That, I don't know what that word is, and I should have asked you that on Friday, but it says it has its sear. What's the sear? I wish I had a little diagram.
So that's
Where's that? Is that internal in the gun?
that is internal on the
But
gun.
what is it?
Well, it's part of the firing mechanism for the gun. But let me just pull something up so I can give you a more accurate
Okay,
definition.
Not trying to ask a trick question, I just don't know what it is. What is a sear? Should have a diagram. Maybe there's a diagram. Oh, wait, let's see. Maybe there's a diagram. Oh, actually, there actually is a picture of a sear on that MSI testimony, page 29. Not that it's helpful, but it does, it is in the interior of the gun near the trigger bar, rear rail, and connector, so.
So Senator,
Yeah.
pulling it up, the definition that USCCA on their website gives is that a sear is defined as the part of the trigger mechanism which holds the hammer, striker, or bolt back until the correct amount of pressure has been applied to the trigger. At that moment, the hammer, striker, or bolt is released to discharge the weapon. So this is the part of the trigger mechanism that holds back, in this case, the striker.
And just to clarify, that is all integral to this cruciform trigger bar, which is originally a Glock patented mechanism that now we have copycats or mimics, right? So just making sure that I understand that. I think that's right. I think that's right.
It's Glock or Glock clones.
Right, but that's their design. Okay. All right. for me, it doesn't help too much, but, you know, at least I see a picture of it. Oh, I see, auto sear.
So pending any further questions, we do have an open motion which has been seconded, which is just to adopt the amendment before you. Is everyone okay? Adopt the amendment? Okay. Now the bill is before you as amended. Further discussion?
Really, in my mind, debating this bill in my own mind, I think at, you know, first blush, I'm worried that it may be unconstitutional. But having said that, I also have an enormous alarm about what I've seen in videos of these semi-automatic handguns that can be converted and rapid fire in a way that's just shocking, just shocks you. So what I just want to know, just a couple of questions. One, did we not pass a law that PLACA had been sort of an obstacle for us to hold some gun manufacturers accountable, but through the artful drafting and smart people in Annapolis, I think we passed a law, and I want to put this on the record, we passed a law that does allow, and I think the Attorney General of Maryland is pursuing litigation, as well as Baltimore City, using that law that allows him to go after gun manufacturers for certain kinds of, not to be exact here, nuisance and the like. So currently, is this lawsuit against Glock and Glock, for lack of a better word, copycat? Is that who's involved in the lawsuit?
You know, as far as litigation against Glock, I'm not aware they're actually using the statute that the General Assembly created. I'm not sure if they are. I could get that information for you, but I'm not sure if they're using the specific statute that the General Assembly created relative to public nuisance in that context.
Well, the only reason I asked is that I'm trying to put this in the overall way Maryland wants to approach gun safety and also stay within the confines of the Constitution. So what I was thinking of is that that law has passed, you know, we've passed it, it's in force, and it has not been successfully challenged. Then the next question was, is that enabling our Attorney General to you know, attempt to protect the public from guns like this through that litigation and that lawsuit? But because I am aware there are lawsuits that are going after this kind of gun, and the reason I'm asking that is that if this bill is passed, I assume it will be challenged. It too will go to court. So we'll get in line in a court proceeding with the existing court case. But I want to make sure I'm right that there's existing litigations going after these guns or mirror image of these guns.
There is litigation where the state as well as Baltimore City are suing Glock specifically over the design of their firearm. My only hang-up was what theory they were proceeding under, whether they were using the public nuisance right of action that had been created. I would assume that they would, because that allows the Attorney General, as well as I believe state's attorneys to, or county attorney to go after an industry participant.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the other question I have is, do we have federal law? It's a four-part question. I believe we have federal laws that outlaw machine guns. We have federal laws machine guns, whether that's a handgun or a long gun, right? They're illegal. And I hope we have a state law.
We do.
That does, and that's good, because that allows the state to fill in for the federal government that can't be everywhere. And my understanding is that we have a state law that makes it illegal. Now, this is where my terminology can be bad, but I thought we had state and federal law outlawing the switch, the mechanism that is at the heart of the controversy. Is that true?
Oh, that's accurate.
State and federal, right?
And federal. So a machine gun is something that fires fully automatic, which means that more than one projectile can be expelled from the firearm by a single trigger pull. Semi-automatic, which is legal, is one projectile per trigger pull.
Right.
So the Glock switches under federal law would be, those would be machine guns, definitionally under federal law.
Right, they
Maryland
don't call
state law
Glock
treats it a
switches
little
under
bit
the federal
different.
law, right?
I'm sorry, what?
They don't, this law isn't called, the federal ban isn't on Glock switches, but that's what we're going to call it for, just for the record.
Those would be machine guns under federal law. State law treats it a little bit differently.
Okay.
State law regulates machine guns, so it's not technically illegal to, and under state or federal law, to have a machine gun. There's just a much more intensive process, and,
Right.
and what dates are available. They can't have been manufactured after a certain year. So these
Okay.
are historic machine guns that we're talking about, but that's kind of down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, and did you say, is it two separate laws? Is it a law against machine guns and then another law against switches?
Depends on if we're talking about state or federal law. So under state law, yeah, there's failing to comply with the state's regulation of machine gun ownership and possession.
Okay.
And then there is under the rapid fire activator statute, which has been expanded over the years. Initially, that was things like bump stocks, trigger cranks. Those things simulate automatic fire, but it was later expanded to things like the auto sear, and that's in the section of law that this is going into.
So currently, under Maryland law and federal law, even though I understand they're not quite identical, this kind of gun that we're trying to be more express about in a particular statute is illegal. Once
the
converted.
The switch or
Right.
whatever auto sear or whatever you'd like to call it, the Glock switch goes on the back of the firearm. I mean, it's illegal. Yeah.
Have we prosecuted people under these federal and state laws in Maryland? Have we had any prosecutions so far?
I would
And I know you
be
don't
shocked
need to know,
if we
but-
hadn't. Yeah, I don't have that data in front of me, but I'd be shocked if we hadn't.
So I guess what I'm asking is, because I definitely don't like what these guns can do, we have laws right now that ban them. Maybe not worded like this, but in effect, unless you tell me that there's something about our four laws, two feds, two state laws that already make these guns illegal. This is not adding, or is it? Let me add it that way. Is this adding anything to the four statutes, two federal and two state, in terms of it being illegal?
I want Sarah Love to chime in.
Yeah, I'd love to, yeah. I'd love to hear from Senator Love. I would.
Well, thank
Senator.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator James. It does add to what we have right now. I think there are a couple of things that are going on. One, as we heard from law enforcement, these do-it-yourself machine guns, which is basically what they are proliferating, and they are finding them more and more. And because it is so easy either to 3D print the switch or to get it online for $20, I mean, it itself is illegal. But what we're trying to get at is really, as we've been talking about, a common sense design issue. We're trying to say that this very specific type of gun, and it is very narrowly defined, that after a certain time aren't going to be sold anymore because they are so easily converted, and that is, it's so dangerous. So while we do have a law on machine guns and we do have a law on switches, we're trying to get at the design of this narrow group of semi-automatic pistols.
So I'm saying that our existing law goes after a pre-existing switch, and this goes after the behavior of creating the switch? Is that what we're doing?
No, this goes after the specific design of the pistol itself.
Okay.
So it's a design regulation in essence.
But how does it, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I do, understand the horror of the gun, but also I don't see what I know we're adding another bill, but I don't think we're making it more illegal. What could we,
Sure.
what defendant could escape the 2 federal laws and the 2 state laws? We could find that defendant, because most of these guns come in illegally. What defendant would we grab that we couldn't have grabbed under the 4 existing laws? Give me a scenario of a defendant that could escape those 4 laws, but we could ensnare them with this law.
I think we're going at it a little bit differently, which is to try to stop the proliferation of these easily convertible
When you say proliferate, do you
pistols.
mean manufacture or the importation of illegal guns?
Just the fact of having this set of narrowly defined pistols that are so easily convertible.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make it not as easy to get your hands on this type of pistol that you can then easily convert. So if you can't get them legally in the state of Maryland, if you have them right now, they're not being touched, so we're not even talking about
'cause
that.
you're-
But if you're going forward and you can't buy this specific design,
I see.
then we're getting at the straw purchasers, we're getting at those who steal from lawful owners, we're getting at that element. They won't have access
Okay.
to this
So then
DIY machine
My other
gun.
question is this. My understanding, again, is that most of our problem in the state of Maryland is under this particular scenario, as well as many others, but let's just for this purpose, is the guns are all illegal. In other words, we lawful gun owners are not our problem here. The ones that are lawfully buying a Glock, whatever model it is that allows itself to go through this conversion. The problem is people that are not supposed to have the guns, or the guns are illegal themselves. So what's your understanding of that?
So-
And let me just, and the second part of it, just answer this for me, is even if Maryland, our little Maryland, says you can't sell them lawfully here, so it's a 2-part question. So we have criminals who don't care about that, but you can respond and let me know. And then if it's lawful in 49 other states, and our biggest problem is the legal importation of the illegal guns, how will this bill help us?
Okay, I don't know where.
I know. I'm trying
I'm
to-
sorry, Senator James, I don't know
I
what
can
to.
break them up. First, I can break up the questions, but first of all, my understanding is that most of the guns at issue in this, involving this Glock gun, are illegal guns anyway, being brought into the state illegally. People are not registering these guns, are not lawfully owning them already. Or am I wrong about that?
So I would say yes and no. What this is going after is that after a certain date, it's not going to be so easy to get these guns. You're not going to be able to buy them in Maryland to easily convert them into machine guns.
In
So
Maryland.
that's what we're going at.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, people can't buy, handgun or pistols outside of Maryland and then bring them in Maryland. You've got to buy them in Maryland. Some criminals do. That is true. There is always going to be, criminal activity.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is make it harder for them to get those guns up front. And I think one of the things that
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to
No,
say.
finish. Go ahead, finish.
No, that's just it. It's
Well, I was
just,
trying to figure out, are you saying that, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think criminals are buying these, but I could be wrong. Maybe criminals are buying these guns lawfully in Maryland and then converting them. Is that what the evidence is? Is that the evidence that people are buying them lawfully? And so that would make some sense to me. Then this bill says, well, guess what? You just can't go in and get this gun legally and then go home and noodle with it with all these, conversions. Is that your understanding? Because my understanding is that the criminals are not buying these guns lawfully to begin with, and then they're altering them.
so in my discussions with law enforcement,
Yeah.
they haven't made that broken out. When they talk about, they come in and they testify about the
Right.
proliferation of what they're seeing out
Right.
there, they haven't broken out into, X person bought it here legally and then converted it, or Y person bought it illegally and then converted it. I
Right.
think the bottom line is that we are trying to address a specific type of pistol that is so easily converted.
Right.
And we don't want it to be so easy for people to get.
To buy. And then do you understand the relationship of this bill and what we've already done in Maryland with the, let's say, the statute that helped us address PLACA and allows our Attorney General to take up serious cases of it's nuisance, but it's a terrible word because it's a very serious problem, isn't it? But I guess I'm saying, do you understand that litigation and what that's doing? And if so, how does that affect this? Because my understanding was, just to give you my premise, I understood that they're suing Glock, both the city and the state, whatever the theory may be, the statute, to also say you cannot, these are inherently dangerous because of their ability to be converted, and therefore we want to prohibit you from selling them in our states. So that litigation's going on, so that if we pass this and it's contested, we would just join that litigation. But if you understand that differently, let me know.
So there are other manufacturers that make this. As you noted a little while ago, that, Glock's patent has expired, so that there are other
Right.
manufacturers that are making this. And
Okay.
we want to address that as well.
Okay, so that's, if I had to make an argument for it, you'd say, well, there's litigation with Glock. There is not, to your knowledge, litigation against the copycat.
Correct. And you
Although-
can't do proactive litigation saying we're, going to sue every manufacturer that is now or hereafter creating this. And that's what we're getting at.
And is it your understanding, like, let's assume that the Attorney General was successful in his litigation. Do you understand it to mean that does not mean all the copycats would immediately not be also illegal? You mean, or is your understanding that he would have to sue each copycat manufacturer separately under the litigation? Because my understanding was if he's successful, that not only touches Glock, but any gun that's like Glock. But that's my
That would be
understanding.
right. I haven't read the pleadings,
Yeah.
but that would be any gun that's like Glock right now. But, 2 years from now, we could have another manufacturer that wasn't a part of this, that this law would address, but the lawsuit would not.
Okay, all right. Let me think about that. Thank you very much. Let me think
Sure.
about that. I'm sure other people have questions.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Glock switches, I just want to kind of recap, I guess, if I can. The Glock switches are already illegal. That's a federal law, right? And a state, right? I guess my next question is, do we know, I'm asking because I already know, but where does this stop? Because I guess the question is, can any semi-automatic handgun be converted to fully auto?
My understanding is that yes, it could.
So the answer is yes, as far as we know, right?
Sure.
So we are now this is going to be a constitutional issue, obviously. That is my prediction. It is an issue where we are now separating out one class, one type of weapon that is a long-standing firearm that's been utilized by law enforcement in this state for a long time. I'm talking over 30 years. And right now, MSP has on their roster, their handgun roster, they have a hold on Glock 6 Gen 6s, which were to fix this. It's on the hold. It's not. I'd like to know. I just know when I looked it up, it's in the hold. Like they were supposed to be permitting it in September, and now it's a hold. But if we can get that, that'd be great to know the technical part of it. So, so we've established that Glock switches are already illegal federally and in the state. This does nothing to change that law. On the current Glock switch possession within the state, council, is there an enhanced state penalty for possession of that type of firearm during the possession of a crime?
Yes, it would be during the commission of a felony, I believe, or crime of violence. Let me double check.
Yeah,
on
if
that,
you don't
but
mind,
yeah.
I'm asking because I'd like to have it on the record.
Sure. I'm ready, Steve. So, Senator, under 4306 of the criminal law article provides that a person who uses an assault weapon, rapid-fire activator, which would include change definition or a magazine that has a capacity of more than 10 rounds of ammunition in the commission of a felony or a crime of violence as defined in 5101 of the public safety article, is guilty of a misdemeanor and on conviction, in addition to any other sentence imposed for the felony or crime of violence, shall be sentenced under this subsection. There are escalating penalties based on subsequent offenses. Would you like me to continue, or? Sure. So for a first violation, a person shall be sentenced to imprisonment for not less than 5 years and not exceeding 20 years. The court is not authorized to impose less than the minimum sentence of 5 years. The mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years may not be suspended.
The misdemeanor part of it? I'm sorry. I know that these are complex because they're merging together. So we have a commission of a crime, of a felony, but then having this, I'm talking about specifically this part that we're talking about charging now.
So use in a crime,
If it's used-
so it's a separate offense.
Correct.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to make clear on the record. So right now, if you possess this Glock switch during the commission of a crime, even a felony, it's a misdemeanor, is what you said, to have the
designated
Glock
as a
switch convertible pistol.
Designated as a misdemeanor, right.
So we take this issue so seriously in the state of Maryland that if you're committing a felony, we want to have that violation of that person carrying that Glock switch in commission of a crime, which I guess it was the rapid fire would put it would be the same language that would put it under the part, Jamie, that I'm asking about.
Right.
For the.
So that definition is expanded.
Yeah, so it's.
Let me just make sure I've got.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm going to try to find it myself.
Sure.
So
rapid fire activator is expanded under the bill. Senator, I'm just to help, I'm looking at bill page 2 of 6 down at lines 29 through 31.
Okay.
So pistol converter is added to the definition of rapid fire activator.
Perfect.
Right?
So by passing this, we already have a law in place that covers this, and it's such an egregious offense during the commission of a felony, we want to include it as a misdemeanor. And what is the penalty currently for having a Glock pistol, a Glock switched pistol, during the commission of that felony? What would be the misdemeanor, the punishable, incarcerable time just for that part of the crime? That's what I'm trying to separate out. I'm not trying to make it more difficult than it is. I just need to separate out this exact part that we're discussing now with separate from the felony.
4-3.
If you can find it.
Sure. So your question is, just so I'm clear, are you saying now if you possess a Glock during the commission of a felony or a crime of violence?
What I'm saying is this bill is already in law.
Sure.
We already have this law. If someone puts a Glock switch and converts the sear
Right. It is
It's a federal law and a state law already.
Correct.
So, under current law, this is such an important issue that we have to add another law of the same thing. What is the current punishment? I guess it's a misdemeanor, but what is the punishable part of it? Because it's such an egregious thing that we needed another law for another misdemeanor, apparently, because this one's going to be a misdemeanor as well?
Right. So, well, so let me just be clear. If you're using the rapid fire activator in the commission of the felony or crime of violence, that itself is a crime.
Correct.
So it would carry for a first violation between 5 and 20 years.
For 5 and 20 years, it's a misdemeanor, though, that can be punishable up to 5 to 20 years.
That's correct.
5 to 20 years on a misdemeanor. Wow. 5 to 20 years. I'm just curious. I mean, like, that's fascinating to me that we have a misdemeanor that's 5 to 20 years. I learned something today.
But this is in use, this is when you're using it.
This is the converted part. So in 4306, the bill does not add Glock specifically to the, or a machine gun convertible pistol to 4306. What we're talking about is just the converter piece, so the Glock switch.
But it's, you have to do the converter piece to make it a Glock switch. So this is literally a duplicative law to what's already enforceable in law. We're not changing. We might be adding some definitions in here, but we're not changing the law. We're adding a new layer for the same offense, for an already illegal offense.
So one is,
Now I'm
talk about the comprehensive nature of this. So one is, I mean, obviously,
It is.
what the senator is pointing to is very important, and I think, points to the seriousness and nature of the offenses and these firearms and the augmentation of these firearms. But this approach goes, shows how comprehensive we have to be in addressing this issue, because this is a different avenue, not criminal penalties against an individual or for mere possession, or even the act of augmenting the firearm. This is another avenue to address the susceptibility, a design flaw, and if the senator could speak more to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wouldn't call it a design flaw.
Potential, but it's, yeah.
Right, it's a specific design. So this, Senator, we have, as the previous colloquy with Senator James, there are laws on the machine guns and on the switches, okay? This is different. This is going at a specific pistol, semi-automatic pistol, and the sale or manufacture of that pistol, because it is so easily convertible with no tool, no, special expertise, not a lot of money, only common household tools. So that's what we're going at. We're going at a specific design regulation.
I appreciate that, but here's my concern. We have laws on the books that already would prohibit what is being converted by these pistols. Now we are unconstitutionally segregating out one specific model of a semi-automatic handgun that is being utilized by police across the state without converting them. The act of converting them is illegal. So my concern is that by adding this in, we're now, it's going to go in front of the courts. It is what it is. I mean, it's going to be a constitutional issue because now we're going after one specific manufacturer over one type of weapon. I mean, if that was the methodology, if that was the mindset of this committee, this body, then we should be looking at outlawing cars, because you can put a can of nitrous, a bottle of nitrous on a vehicle, and you can make it extremely dangerous, running over police officers in Montgomery County. But we're not doing that because the law is already there. It's already illegal to do that. So my concern is that here we are again, we're trying to get so far into the weeds on this that we can't get out of our own way to look at the legality and the idea of the premise that it's already illegal to do what this does. So with that, I would like to, I guess my next question is, Jamie, does this bill as crafted, is it carry the same penalty as what possessing or modifying to a Glock switch.
Sorry. Couple of things that, before we get to that, you keep coming back to law enforcement have carried this gun for a long time. This doesn't touch law enforcement, okay? They can still carry it, they can still buy it, they can still use it. So they are explicitly carved out of this bill, as they were with the assault weapons ban.
Right.
Okay? That's number one. Number two, we're not going after one manufacturer. While Glock had this and they were the start of it, there are other manufacturers. And even if you look at, I think it was Mark Pennick's testimony, he lists out a whole bunch of other guns that are applicable. But again,
clones.
it's
They're clones.
specific.
Sure.
It's a specific design that we're talking about, the cruciform trigger bar. I would disagree that it's unconstitutional, fully. And the other thing that we're talking about, law enforcement came in and testified that, yes, while machine guns are illegal, yes, while switches are illegal, these things are proliferating. They are all over the place, and they are seeing multiple times over and over and over again. So they actually want this bill. They supported it, and they want it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I would say that if law enforcement is seeing that overwhelmingly, I think law enforcement would be able to report to you that overwhelmingly there are no legal gun owners doing this in possession, especially during the commission, when they're doing it in commission of a crime, and we have an overwhelming amount of illegal gun owners who are already prohibited from possessing a firearm, from having these types of firearms. So I guess to follow up on your one statement, this would prohibit the sale of these type of guns in the state. Is that what you're saying?
Except for law enforcement.
So we can
They're
sell them?
allowed to law enforcement.
I understand.
Yes.
So, because earlier you said that you can buy a firearm, like you couldn't buy a firearm out of state and bring it to Maryland or something, or a pistol out of state and bring it to Maryland, but you can actually buy a pistol out of state and it has to be transferred to an FFL into Maryland. So I just want to be, so you can buy,
Yes.
I just want to make sure we're
Yes.
clear on that, on the record. But, okay, so we have that part. And I guess the last thing that I have as far as this, Jamie, would be, or Mr. Chair, would be, you know, when we look at, I'm looking at the transference, the eligible persons for transferring. It says you can, anybody that possesses a machine gun convertible pistol, which I'm guessing it's not a Glock switch modified, it's just what could become that. So we're like calling things really bad things to make them scary when they're not converted. So it's the potential to become a machine gun convertible pistol. If that's the case, that you can have it as long as you have it before December 31st of this year, that you could sell or otherwise transfer to an immediate family member who is not prohibited under federal or state law from possessing, a firearm may be purchased or otherwise receive one of these machine gun convertible pistols from an immediate family member who lawfully possessed the pistol on that date. The thing that we're missing is that we have, we didn't cover the part about inheritance. And inheritance is covered under the federal, no, we didn't. No, we didn't have inheritance on there.
Direct you to, I believe it is covered under, on page 3 of the reprint, under the existing law, lines 31 through 35.
Hold on, I'm not on the right page. Oh, here we go.
In item 5, the lead-in language is, this subtitle does not apply to, and in 5, the receipt of an assault weapon, a detachable magazine, or a machine gun convertible pistol by inheritance, and possession of an inherited assault weapon, detachable magazine, or machine gun convertible pistol, if the decedent lawfully possessed the assault weapon, detachable magazine, or machine gun convertible pistol.
Okay, so this is the part where it would be for the inheritance on line 30. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
No,
No, I was saying, I'll answer your first question, which is about the policy call, but why are we going to grandfather folks in?
Okay,
Go.
thank you. So by the inheritance, that would provide for a navigation around the immediate family member portion that would allow for it to be passed from a grandparent to a grandchild.
Yeah, it doesn't specify what type of relationship there needs to be for inheritance to apply, yeah.
Okay, it's anything in an inheritance, however, it would be crafted in such, I guess, decree or
Yeah, I
will.
don't see, like, I mean, a will would provide for it that's, you know, you're inheriting through a will, or,
It doesn't define the instrument that you have.
yeah.
It doesn't define the relationship nor the instrument.
Right.
Okay, all right. All right, nope, that's what I had. I appreciate the time, thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Senator West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be brief. During this long conversation, I've paged through all the testimony. I'm trying to find a report of how many people in Maryland have been killed by one of these guns as adulterated. I can't find anything. The closest I can come is in the lawsuit filed by Baltimore City. There is an allegation that a man was killed in the Inner Harbor, but there were multiple people attacking him. And it just reports that a 19-year-old was arrested and a modified Glock was recovered. So there's no statement that he was killed with the Glock. Senator Love, are you aware of any instances in Maryland where someone has been killed with one of these modified guns? And if so, how many cases can you point to?
So, Senator, I have a list right here of, it's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there are no page numbers, but I think it's 8 pages. List of switch incidents in Maryland that I can send to you. I do know that
Are those
at
deaths?
Morgan State, I believe I had that in my testimony. 3 people were killed with one of these, and I know there have been, there was a 15-year-old that was killed in Beltsville. There were, so I'm happy to share this list with you.
I'd love to
because
see
we
it.
have multiple
Yeah.
instances of it.
Okay.
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Hope so.
That's my question.
Senator James.
I just need a little clarification. So the bill allows for the sale of these guns to law enforcement, but not to private citizens or businesses. So I'm sure we do this in other instances, but how do we accomplish that just in general? I mean, the guns can come into any place but only be sold to law enforcement, or because we are trying to limit it, the proliferation of guns, do we try to restrict, you know, the dealers that might be selling these guns only to law enforcement? Just how does that work? I'm sure we have other guns like this, right? How does that work?
So council may know specifically how
Yeah.
that works. I just know that we had that in current law when we
Yeah.
put in our assault weapons ban. So we put that in there as well.
I know, and I get that on assault weapons, but the handguns are just so ubiquitous in many ways, and very popular with the law-abiding citizens. In other words, if we're trying to make sure that this gun isn't imported into the state, it's a little counterproductive to have it still come in, but only for certain people to buy. And I assume we would try to do something about that, but I don't know that the bill addresses how you would make sure that only certain places sell it. You know, it just makes it more challenging if it can be brought into any gun shop, is licensed, right? But then, of course, only limited buyers can have it. In other words, you still have an awful lot of these guns that could be stolen, right? And whatnot. So do you have any knowledge about how that would work?
How FFLs ensure that it's a law enforcement officer or a law enforcement
Yeah, I
agency
thought-
that's buying them?
Yeah. If you don't,
I
that's
don't.
fine. I'm sorry. Now I had one other question. Oh, so, and the penalty currently, I didn't ask this, for an illegal automatic weapon or an illegal switch is what, and then what's the new penalty for this? That's, I just want to understand, because all I got, I think I just learned only that if you use a converted gun under existing law, you could be penalized between 5 and 20 years. So that's in the use of the commission of a crime. But I'm assuming, and I may have misspoken, that I understood it is it's illegal to possess an automatic gun, like a machine gun, handgun, and it's illegal to possess the switch. So that's three different things: using it in a crime, possessing an gun that's already automated, or possessing a switch. So what are those penalties, and how do they work together?
So the general violation of the subtitle. So just focusing on the machine gun convertible pistol, like we're just talking about the pistol end of it to begin. Like, so if you sold or offered for sale or purchased or received in a way that was prohibited under the statute a machine gun convertible pistol. So we'll use the example of there's a Glock and you permanently dispose of that Glock to another person. You violate the statute. A general violation of the subtitle that it's going into is 3 years. That's a
Jimmy,
maximum.
You so lost me. Is that, I'm asking what the current law is, and then I'll ask you what the new
Oh, sure,
penalty
sure.
is. Sorry.
So the current law, so if somebody possessed just the mere possession of a Glock switch,
Right.
Under state law would be the existing 3-year penalty, just for the possession, because it's a violation of the subtitle that
So
statute
possession, that's the
is in.
max.
Right.
Okay.
The switch.
But if
Oh,
you,
yeah, the switch.
of the
I
switch,
got you.
but
I got you.
if you used that switch during the commission of a
Then it's-
felony or a crime of violence,
Right, then it's 5.
then for a first offense, 5 to 10, or sorry, 5 to.
20, right?
No less than
Right.
5, no more than 20.
Right, 5 to 20.
5
For a
to
second
20.
or subsequent,
Right.
minimum 10,
Got
up
it.
to 20.
And then what is the penalty for the machine gun? I'm sorry, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
that. What's that penalty?
Let me pull that
And then
up.
I'm going to ask you what's the penalty under this, where I think I,
Looking at the Uniform Machine Gun Act,
Yeah.
which is 401 through 4407 of the criminal law
Right.
article. And let me just pull up the penalty section for you, Senator.
I used to have this bill that pared down what could be transferred through something called like the 1033 program, which is a DoD program that transfers military equipment to law enforcement. Had a bill to kind of restrict what it does, and that obviously from administration to administration, they've had executive order that's gone back and forth as to what can be transferred. But that's a program, for instance, that streamlines and provides law enforcement with equipment and high capacity magazines and certain firearms that are not available to the public. And so that
makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that facilitation can happen, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to try to add them up.
Sure, so under 4405 of the criminal law article.
Right.
The way that the statute deals with this is through the prohibition of possession of a machine gun for
Right.
an offensive purpose.
Right.
So there's a
Just
presumption that a
possession.
person possesses it for an offensive purpose if they haven't registered their machine gun, this is sort of that regulatory structure that I'm
Right, because you
talking
could have a
about.
machine gun if you registered properly, but
Right,
assuming
there's
it's
a-
unregistered. what's
Right,
the
so
penalty?
assuming it's unregistered,
Right.
assuming you're violating 4405, that is up to 10 years.
Up to 10 years. And then just a clarification, because I'm probably reading this out of context. Just how do I read this? All right, it's on, this is the reprint, page 5, line 6. So it says, just, I'm sure I'm reading it out of context, but except it's otherwise provided in this section, on or after, January 1st, 2027, a person may not manufacture, sell, or offer for sale, purchase, or receive a machine gun convertible pistol. So even though it's written like this does not prohibit this company from manufacturing Glocks. It just means you're not going to be doing it within the state borders. Is that how we read? Yeah. You don't manufacture it in the state? We're not.
Wouldn't be able to control what a manufacturer like Glock or any of the other manufacturers.
I mean, do we have manufacturers in the state of Maryland currently who make anything
No, we
in
ran
this?
them out.
Beretta was the last one. Beretta left.
Okay, well, yeah, but it's important to know. I want to know if there was a business in here. Okay, I got you. And then my last question is, just to understand this, Senator West asked about how often this gun has been used in the commission of a crime. And I think I saw some data. I saw some data that indicated that they're just popping up, either because they recognize the cartridge perhaps, or there's some other indice post-crime when it's been used, and they've also been recovering them, more and more of these guns. But I guess my question is, was there data on, when we've done something similar to this, that it's been effective in bringing down the harm these guns cause? In other words, that it's used in the commission of a crime. Do we have any data that says, I see what you're saying about making it harder to buy the lawful, sort of a telltale sign about the bill, but this lawful gun, now you can't sell it in the state, regardless of the switching and all that. But do we have any data that shows we've made some otherwise lawful gun illegal in the state of Maryland to own, possess, or manufacture, and that gun violence has gone down as a result of it, or gun violence from that particular gun has gone down, especially when it becomes wildly popular, as this gun appears to be now? And I don't know the answer to that at all, but I think it's no. But if there's data that says that there is something, that this is effective in bringing down the harm that we're trying to prevent, that would be good to know.
Thank you. I don't know, but I imagine we can look back to our assault weapons ban and see, so I'm happy to ask, make some
And the sad thing
inquiries.
about that assault weapons ban is that yes, maybe that particular method, but actually I don't see that we've lowered, the number of people that die by firearms in the United States. We have a problem. There's no question.
We do.
Problem. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Fulton, yeah.
So as I'm looking further here, so Senator made that it would be a law enforcement agency would be allowed to purchase them still, correct?
That's what I heard as well. I was looking for the exact exemption.
I'm looking.
Subtitle does not apply to, 1, personnel of the United States
Where's it at?
government or,
What page?
I'm sorry, page 3 of 6, starting at line 8. This subtitle does not apply to. Then 9, if acting within the scope of official business. And then line 11, law enforcement personnel of the state or a local unit in the state.
Okay, here we go.
Just make sure it's right. I mean, that's.
Question, which is, it talks about, everything that's in here is talking about a personnel of a government or a unit of that government, members of the armed forces. So when it says, and I'm asking counsel this, because when you read that on specifically line 11, where it talks about law enforcement personnel of the state, and then it goes on and says, or a local unit of the state. So I'm looking specifically at the law enforcement personnel of the state. Would it allow for them to go in and purchase separate from their department as a off-duty firearm? Would they be allowed to go in and purchase that gun in the state if this bill as written were to pass? That would be on their own. They're a police officer, but acting in their own. Would they be allowed to? That's the first question.
Right.
The second question, which is not in here, which is, we have people that have served an entire career with this type of pistol who have retired, and we don't have any provision for a retired law enforcement officer within the state, which is why I think, because it doesn't specifically include that part, that the part that I just pointed out, the law enforcement personnel of the state, might be of issue for them to go and buy on their own as a sworn member.
Right.
Off-duty, for off-duty carry.
So to question one, Senator, my read of between lines 9 and 13 is that it needs to be within the scope of official business. So as a private citizen, you could not, that exception would not allow you to.
But even as a police officer who's looking to buy the same type of firearm to carry just a smaller version because they're overly familiar with it and how it works and all the components therein, as far as cleaning, breakdown, all that, even interchangeable magazines potentially, they would not be allowed to buy one for off-duty purposes.
You know, I think there'd need to be some connection between, a connection between the scope of official business, so.
I'm not doing it for official business. What I'm saying is that every law enforcement officer in this state is usually encouraged to carry at all times off-duty.
Right.
And so now we have where they could carry their large Glock 17, which would be large and protrude well out of their waistband. But as written, we don't have a provision that would allow them to buy a smaller version of the same type of firearm for concealed carry, because I know this sounds crazy, but sometimes law enforcement run across former clients or bad doers, bad actors, and have to take official law enforcement action. So in that moment of taking that action, as this is written, they would be lawfully obligated, but if they had one purchased after 2026, December 31st, 2026, they wouldn't be able to purchase a smaller version for off-duty use, and if they did have it somehow, there could be criminal consequences.
Yeah, and I mean,
I know that's not the intent of what I'm pointing out is that if that's not the case, then we need to get some language added in that would allow for law enforcement to be able to purchase for off-duty carry, concealment size, and then the provision about the retired LEOs. Is that how you read it, that I would need to add that?
So the retired element I kind of wanted to get to, that's on page 4. There's some language for that, but let me stay with your first question. Yeah, if the committee wanted to add more clear language that would allow an off-duty police officer to do that, clarity is, as a drafter, I'm a really big fan of clarity, but it's up to the will of the committee on how to proceed with it.
Just a clarifying question real quick. So the way that it's drafted now, just a clarifying, so if acting within the scope of official business, so I think that we understand that if you're a current law enforcement officer, but you wanted to go by in your individual capacity, this bill would not allow that. Okay, so after the effective date.
So I can imagine a situation where you probably could end up with with that, but it's just not clear.
So, okay, understood. So maybe we, but I'm not doing that. I'm just want to understand the flow of the bill too. Then for the, someone who retired in good standing, is that exception applicable? So if you could retire and still have it, but you couldn't be current and have it. Is that the way that you read this as well?
Yeah, so let me,
Okay,
could I read the?
Yeah.
So on bill page 4, lines 6 through 12, exception 7, possession by a person who is retired in good standing from service with a law enforcement agency of the state or a local unit of the state and is not otherwise prohibited from receiving an assault weapon, detachable magazine, or machine gun convertible pistol if fast forward there, the machine gun convertible pistol is sold or transferred to the person by the agency on retirement, or the machine gun convertible pistol was purchased or obtained by the person for official use with the law enforcement agency before retirement. So there's a little bit of an implication there that sort of loops back to what I was talking about before. It's not entirely clear that, you know, you couldn't buy your own. There just needs to be some sort of nexus with official use, but it's ambiguous.
But not if you're retired, though.
You don't want to read the retired part.
Right.
Go down into the if, and the subsequent 2 paragraphs, is sold or transferred to the person by the law enforcement agency on retirement. So that's very specific. You say you can't go to a gun store in that situation, right? And then the next one is, or the machine gun convertible pistol was purchased or obtained by the person for official use with the law enforcement agency before retirement. So that's my point, is that once they retire, we have two potential problems here. One is a current law enforcement officer could not go and buy one for on duty or off duty, a subcompact, 1. 2, a retired law enforcement, he could buy it after December 31st, 2026, as long as he bought it directly from the agency when he retired, or was purchased and obtained by the person for official use with the law enforcement agency before retirement, but once they retired, they would not be eligible also to go and purchase said same weapon that they carried for 25 to 30 years. Correct. And buying another, it wouldn't apply. So neither of those exceptions are in there that would apply for this. So, I mean, are we not entertaining or discussing for, since we're doing these amendments, to add that language in there to clarify those 2 points? I mean, I would, if we are not looking, then I would like to make a motion that we would at least add in those 2 specific exceptions that are very narrowly detailed to give the clarity that we all so want.
You can make an amendment. You can run an amendment to your goes.
We could run an amendment here.
Run an amendment here, see what goes to a format, and what are you going to do? Right. Put it up for vote.
I mean, I'd like to see us here, as a body, move a reasonable amendment forward to the floor that is very curtailed to a certain specific persons that are current law enforcement who already carry this type of firearm, pistol, or a retiree who carried it for his whole career to be able to go in and buy it. I mean, we're talking about a very specific, detailed group that, last I checked, we don't have them. Right. So
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will you vote for the bill if we do?
I'll vote for the amendment. I'll vote for the amendment for sure.
Sure. You know, I hear you, Senator. I think 2 things. One, you know, we're looking at current law, and that's what we're working within. So that doesn't really, because we're looking at, you know, where we're talking, what we've been looking at is current language.
Well-
So let me finish.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I think the other thing is, so many of the weapons come from initial legal purchases, and then they're either stolen or, somehow get into the illegal market. And so we're trying to reduce the number of these weapons out there. So while I hear you, I have a lot of concerns about adding yet another category of people who can go out and buy these weapons. And then how do we know that person is using it for, that they retired in good standing, or that, they are using it for whatever purpose? I think we're just opening up more and more loopholes and more ability for more people to get it, more of these guns to be out on the streets.
So, thank you, Senator, for that. I don't think we have an issue with law enforcement going out and creating Glock switches and transferring them to those that are illegally carrying them. But under current law, a police officer right now can go in and buy not only any pistol, but they can buy these additional areas. The assault weapons that are listed under the detachable magazine, a high-capacity magazine. So I would disagree with you that we are creating a separate carve-out, because under current law, they can already do these things. We're actually creating a hindrance upon them that could criminalize them for possessing said weapon after this date. And when I read back even a little further, and counsel, I'm going to ask you to clarify this for me. It says personnel of the United States government or a unit of that government, members of the armed forces of the United States, or the National Guard. So are we saying that National Guardsmen can go and buy one of these, but not those that are current sworn law enforcement officers that have retired, or that are current sworn active law enforcement officers? That just seems kind of contrary to what would be a reasonable ask, that we're going to let members of the National Guard go buy these, but we're not going to allow active law enforcement who carry them on a daily basis to go buy them, without converting them, by the way. This is all about, I want to be very clear, this is all about a title. You guys are changing the title to a machine gun convertible pistol for what is otherwise everyone else in the firearms world calls a pistol. Because until it is illegally modified, it is not a machine gun convertible pistol. You guys are just changing the narrative to suit an outcome. This is something that is very reasonable. We are going to let a National Guard member with no accountability, no police training, go and buy this, but we're not going to allow a sworn law enforcement officer to go and buy a smaller version of what they carry on duty to protect our communities, nor are we going to allow a retired law enforcement officer go and buy a subcompact version of the same thing they carried for 25 to 30 years. That, to me, is the very definition of ridiculous.
No. All right. Thanks. All right. So we're going to go to McKay. No, look, the reason why I don't take such offense to this, honestly, we talked about, certain materials, including firearms and high-capacity magazines, that are available to law enforcement officers exclusively, not to the general public. But if you were to take your badge off and your uniform off, and then you were to go into an FFL and try to buy a high-capacity magazine as a private citizen, you would not be able to. We bifurcate those lines all the time, and so it doesn't seem as inflammatory.
And you're buying a handgun and you show ID that you're an active law enforcement officer, you can buy a high-capacity magazine.
As an off-duty officer, you can go
As an
buy a
off-duty officer with a valid ID, I can walk into a FFL and I can say, I get this handgun that I just had brought in with 17-round capacity magazines, and those magazines get to stay with that weapon because here's my credentials. I'm an active law enforcement officer.
But if you're in your private capacity buying
this is what this body doesn't seem to understand, is that when you're a sworn law enforcement officer, you're never in a quiet, only off-duty capacity that I'm not allowed to go and do that. I am required to act at all times, on or off duty, and if there is a commission of a crime relevant to my proximal location. So the idea or the premise that as a private citizen, I go in there and even though I have a badge or if I don't have my badge and ID on me, no, I can't go buy it. But if I have my ID on me in current law, then I can go in and buy that high-capacity magazine that goes with that handgun that comes and transfers to me legally. So we are creating an absolute carve-out that is unnecessary, but we're going to allow National Guardsmen to do this. Read the bill. A National Guardsman can go in and do this, who's not allowed to carry unless they have a CCW, but a trained law enforcement officer who is empowered and sworn to uphold the very laws that we all are looking to create here. We're going to create a problem for them and put them in potentially an issue with compliance. That's absurd. That's absurdity.
All right, well, I strongly think that there used to be, or has to be a nexus between the scope of your employment and your possession of those.
As a
Otherwise-
police officer, you're a police officer
otherwise-
24 hours a day.
Right.
That is the nexus.
Okay.
So
Senator
that
McCain.
is the nexus at all times. And I would encourage, and for people that think otherwise, I'll be looking forward to that because that discussion should be had here and should be moved because it's reasonable. But if we're not going to move this as a uniform body here to say that this is a reasonable thing for those that are the peacekeepers, but we're going to allow it to be for someone that's a National Guardsman who goes to 2 days a month to drill, and they don't carry guns at drill, by the way. They do hip pocket training. But a police officer who carries a gun 365 days a year, we're going to say that there's no nexus to their duty to be allowed to get that?
Amendment. The senator had said in response to Senator Folden that we're trying to working within the current law. Well, we've already heard that both there's already federal and state already in the books. So if we're working within current law, we're already doing that. So then there's no reason for the bill. So if you're going to say that we can't entertain a motion to make something a better product, and the reason we're not is because we're working within the current law, that's a straw argument. Second of all, she talked about stolen weapons and loopholes. This amendment has nothing to do with any kind, unless you all can tell me there's some loophole that police officers are buying firearms that can be then easily converted into semi-automatic. I don't understand why we would not put something in to make this product better. And unless we're going to stand on we're working within current law, then this is all a farce, a complete farce. And with that, I'd like to second the motion of some form of an amendment, but would like to have time to craft an amendment. We can't do anything on the fly. So I think we need to hold this bill until we can look at an amendment that you can either shoot up or shoot down.
All right, so here we've got people who've got, hold on, I'm sorry. We've got people, executive nominations is held up for us, so they've got to send people up to introduce their guests right now. So if you've got a guest, go. And then obviously people have district, have other obligations. So we either will come back tomorrow before floor. What do we have? Caucus. Tomorrow after floor. It'll be the first order of business before we go into our bill hearings. All right. So directly after floor tomorrow, when we gavel in, we're going to do a voting session, and then we're going to do bill hearings tomorrow. All right.